Hello, everybody, and welcome to Xapi Cohort. I woke up this morning and I hit the snooze button. And I woke up again and I thought, oh my gosh, this is week 11. This cohort semester has gone by so fast, and although this is it's gone by amazingly fast. And all that hard work today. I'm really excited for that. But it has been an intense and wonderful XPI cohort session, and I am eager to get into the action today. So I'm Megan Torrance. I'm a cohort host this semester, and I am very excited to get us rocking and rolling. This is week 11 of 12, and this session is being recorded. So if you're seeing you live, hello, welcome. And we are glad that you're here. If you are seeing this on the recording, if you're seeing this on the recording, hi, I'm glad that you're here. So I am checking my backstage and the chat because everybody's saying my audio is better. Jamie, so talk about a power producer. Jamie's mere presence on the stage seems to have resolved our audio issues. So thanks everybody. And if you didn't know before, now you know that Jamie Washington is pretty magical. So I want to introduce us to Xapi Cohort. We have 832 people registered for cohort this semester. It's never too late. And actually what's kind of cool about joining cohort right now is you get to focus on, right? They say keep the end in mind or start with the end in mind and keep your eyes on the prize. This is it. Right? This is the culmination of what can be done in a 12-week period, and you get to see it here. So this is actually a fantastic time to join cohort. We have over 4,000, probably pushing a lot, maybe pushing 4,500 since we started this in the fall of 2015. So cohort has been happening every spring and every fall for quite some time. Our learning cohorts. I am Megan Torrance, your host. Jamie Washington, the magical Jamie Washington, is our producer. Matt Cleaver is behind the scenes, making sure that all the pieces and parts of cohort work together magically. And our Xapi Gnome is the Twitter handles for all of your details and what's going on with Xapi. This week is the first of 2 weeks of team demos. So we have team H5P going first and then team Unreal Engine happening afterwards. So I was very excited to see all of this work. Xapi Party happens May 6th. It's an online conference event. We call it a party because, well, you've all by this point in the cohort heard about the kind of crummy weather sometimes we have in Michigan. So we call it a party, which is how we get people to come to Michigan. And then it's a pandemic, so we put party online. And I think Xapi Party Online works better. So May 6th, join us here. We'll have longer demos of more complete cohort projects, but also sessions from some of our cohort speakers, some other people out in the world doing things with Xapi, and some examples and experiments and things going on. It's a really great event with a fantastic vibe. And if you have been waiting for the recipe reminder for the Xapi, the official cocktail of Xapi, it's called the Statement. We share that out at the Xapi party. So absolutely encourage you to go ahead and sign up for party. Those of you who, we don't need this slide because we've tech checked everybody who is joining us today, but those of you who are speaking, remember to keep your settings set. Xapi Cohort, if you're just here fresh new for the demos, Cohort is a 12-week free online learning by doing experience about Xapi. So an alternative way and a much more rich and interesting way of tracking information about what happens in learning and performance experiences. This itself is a learning experience, and we have weekly web sessions And then project teams. So our weekly web sessions happen here now or on the recordings. And the project teams have been working diligently along since late January in Slack, in GitHub, and wherever it is that they can meet. So if you are here watching the recording or manage to get this passed to you and you're like, what's this weekly email? We send out a weekly email to people who are registered for the cohort so they get all the first news and extra bonus content and other useful information about cohort. The schedule for cohort, right, over the last 2 weeks or 12 weeks, we've been looking at what is XAPI and how do I do it? How do I build and tune this ecosystem? And now we've been seeing it in action. Along the way, right, on the right-hand side, our teams have been working along, coming up with ideas, forming teams, building, testing, repeating, getting help, finding out more about the work that they're doing, learning by doing and learning by failing in some cases, right? That's how we know we're at that learning edge. And now we're in demo. So we've got 2 weeks of cohort session demos. There's then the Demo Fest at the Learning Solutions Conference. So if you are interested in checking out some more XAPI action at the Learning Solutions Conference in Orlando that the Learning Guild puts on, by all means, we will see you there. And I will have a stack of XAPI cohort stickers. So find me at that conference for stickers. And then we have that XAPI party on May 7th. So this might be a screen that you want to screenshot to keep track of all of these opportunities to see XAPI in action, which is pretty exciting stuff. But the real reason we're here, is that it's demo day today. So we are first going to have Team H5P come to the stage. So we have Rob Wiggins, Kevin Corcoran, and Matt Cleaver. And I will stop my sharing because it doesn't work if I'm still sharing. And I am really excited. I think, Rob, you're going to kick things off for us today.
I am. Thank you. Yeah, and so I'm just going to get my screen sharing ready here and make sure I'll get you guys to just confirm that it's looking the way it should.
Looking good.
Terrific. Okay, so let me give some quick context, and some of the words that you had, Megan, were very helpful to me because I was remembering back to January, and I was deep inside some work, and I had actually participated in other cohorts, but mostly lurking. So this title of the presentation, I was almost going to go with Diary of a Lurker, but decided instead what I should be doing is giving credit to the folks that you're seeing on the screen right now. In January, I was busy. I hadn't had a chance to kind of jump into things. And once my time freed up, and I did, I was really happy to see that a group had started up on H5P. It was something I had been using at work and was interested in understanding more about those elements. And so before I go any further, I want you to know that the work of the folks that are up on the screen there, this is really their work. I kind of presenting this from an aspect of what I learned about it. I'm lucky enough, though, that Kevin and Matt are going to join me on screen and help present this information. But I definitely want to make sure that Shauna, Brian, and Joan get the credit they deserve. And I kind of jumped in there last minute now that I had some time to make sure that that work got a little bit of publicity. And so I thank him for the opportunity, thank them as well for the opportunity to be able to do that. Probably just quickly before I pass it to Kevin, the other thing that's probably helpful to know about me, besides by the look of that profile picture, I need to update my Slack profile, is that I do work part-time at a college here in Ontario, Canada, as a learning experience designer. I've been using a WordPress site to build H5P interactions. And then the WordPress site gives you the ability to embed those into a web page. And so I've been adding those to a D2L Brightspace LMS. And some of this will make a little bit more sense as we get further into our presentation. But that was what kind of drove me to jump on to this group. expecting to just kind of be a lurker again, but got a little more active towards the end of it. And so what I'm going to do today is, along with Kevin and Matt, is share with you what that group's been doing. Okay, so I'll just make sure I got the next piece here, and I'm going to let Kevin come onto the stage, and he's going to talk a little bit about his experience with the team and tell you a little bit about H5P itself. So Kevin, I'm hoping you're unmuting and jumping in there.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And Brian and Rob's being too modest. He's been a real big help. And you really should see his face. He's a good-looking guy. And so we started out with just trying to do a standalone and for H5P. And then we met Joan and I, and then Brian. And then we got together with Shauna, and like Shauna was doing the H5P and wanting to do it with WordPress. So one thing led to another, and we thought we would really work with WordPress, and that's kind of how we got started there. And so it's an open source authoring tool, and it can be implemented with many popular CMSs and LMSs. And we wanted to do it for an LMS, so we were trying to do this. So like maybe you would take your phone, and you could be anywhere with it, and you could send your XAPIs that way. So that's how that started. So let's see here for the next slide. So where's the potential? Well, XAPI, of course, has many interactions and been built with documented, sometimes undocumented XAPI coverage. You can actually see these in the browser with an H5P running it, an interaction, and pasting the following code into your browser. So that's where Matt comes in. We were doing some wrappers. If you want to use the paid h5p.com site, it has fully integrated services with identified LMSs on previous slide that share information with this, LMSs and LRSs. But we were trying to do this without that. So that's our goal. And we got somewhat there, but not all the way there. And so.
Okay, I think I'm going to pick up there from Kevin, and thanks, Kevin. So I think it would actually be good to maybe hear in the chat if people are familiar with H5P. We can give you a little bit more insight on it through there, but I'll talk a little bit about what I learned through the process. And really, I started with a lot of the same information that you saw on the screen from the h5p.org site. So I had a little bit of an understanding that the tool was XAPI compatible. I could see from some of the interactions that they had statements that were visible. And I got as far as trying that browser, that console plugin where you can take that JavaScript statement and throw it into the browser while you're playing an H5P interaction. And I could see the statements. So between the learnings I've had from the 6 cohorts that I've sat in and lurked around, I was starting to get that, but I had a whole lot of questions because of the way I was currently implementing that at the college. And so what you're seeing here is basically my sort of journey through what the group had done. So I haven't changed the names to protect the innocent. I've actually kept the names to make sure they got credit for it. What I might have done is sequenced it nicely, because I think, as most of you who have joined a group during cohort find, it can be very organic. And so some of these we didn't do in exactly the same sequence. And Kevin talked a little bit how things started out there. But what I did was kind of walk through the Slack channel, which was really my first introduction to the work of the team, and kind of hit some highlights on that. So the first thing that kind of became clear was Joan did a posting where she had done some exploration on Grassblade. And that was kind of my first eye-opener to realize that there were a lot of people already working with what H5P had put forward. And to, I think, borrow some terminology, Megan, that you use, that there was some easy light lifting for getting statements out of H5P and into an LRS. So that was kind of a good example of that. And I think Joan actually went on, and this would be available in our Slack channel, to actually create a bit of a list of some of the resources in LMSs or LRSs, sorry, that are leveraging the tool. So that was really helpful to kind of have that context. Then we kind of dipped a little bit deeper into it and said, okay, if we can see some of these XAPI coverage statements on the site, on the hp.org site, each interaction, and so you saw a brief screen clip there, but if you visit that site, you'll see how many different interactions are available on the site. And each of them may have different coverage that's available to it. Some of it was documented, some of it was undocumented. And so Joan actually went to the step of actually building a spreadsheet, again, available on the Slack channel, that takes what the H5P content type is and what kind of coverage it has. So what verbs are being used and what information could you pull out of the box. So again, more light lifting that I was really glad to see there was a chance to apply right away. Then this next discovery was a big one for me, is in a posting, and you can see it was a fair bit of activity around that, but it was Matt and Joan who brought to light the Lumi, which is an open source desktop app that you can download, and it allows you to create and edit and view and share those H5P interactions. But the key for me was you can actually export those interactions out either as a SCORM compliant package or as an HTML5 page, a single contained complete page. And that was a big aha moment for me, because now I was able to actually take an H5P interaction, drop it into our D2L Brightspace tool, and actually get it connecting with the gradebook and actually see what people, at least from a pass fail and some of the SCORM level reactions were doing. And so that was the first big aha. The other was getting it into an HTML5 complete page, which then Matt was able to take that, and this is a part he's going to demo as soon as I'm done. He'll talk about that and maybe a little on the standalone piece that I'm going to talk about. And he was able to take that single outputted HTML5 complete page and put a wrapper around it so that it now had an uploadable XAPI compliant interaction. And so again, the odd thing about Brightspace is that you can upload XAPI compliant tools. And so I actually tried that out, got it there. What you can't do right now is you can't see the statements that it's capturing. So I'm assuming it's a future it's a future feature for that thing, but that's another place where I have a fair bit of research still to go. And I think Kevin and I will be talking about the things that are still kind of left undone with H5P. But again, I won't, I'll let Matt kind of jump into the details of that one. But we also did some further exploration. So Shauna, who'd been organizing the calls, she has some amazing ideas around there. She was hoping to get on to the cohort today, so I'm not sure if she did, but she has some amazing ideas around applying some of these uses. And so one of the things we experimented with was a recent feature of an AR scavenger hunt that was there. So we all kind of took a chance to build some of those and see what kinds of statements came out of that. And again, ran into a few little technical problems, but Matt rescued us for the most part on those as well. So we were able to see some of those in action. The kinds of things that we've got sort of left, and I'm going to be handing it to Matt in a second, is as Kevin pointed out, we talked about this integration with WordPress and how that might work, and how you have to differentiate between an LMS-LRS combination where you might be able to upload that object and have it work out of the box versus going through a WordPress site and needing to add a little bit more heavy lifting to get those statements out to your own LRS. So I think Matt's making some good headway on that one, and I know the group's kind of interested in pursuing this a little bit further. So there may be an H5P team in the next cohort as well. I think I'm going to pause there though and hand it over to Matt so he can kind of give you the ins and outs of the standalone.
Sure, thank you, and I will share my screen here real quick. So I came into the group a little bit later, so I don't want to take any credit for any of the earlier work because I was kind of building on a lot of things that everyone else had kind of been working on. But I've been playing around with XAPI, but H5P for a while. I've used it in a couple client projects, but not as much of the XAPI part of it, because one thing I had realized is that you can author these H5P interactions, but the XAPI part of it is actually kind of up to you to kind of plug in however you want to. It'll emit these events, like you answer a question, you complete, you launch, whatever, but nothing actually gets sent. You kind of have to set that up on your own. So that was kind of where I was coming in and trying to figure out, okay, we've got these interactions now. How do we kind of plug in some of the XAPI stuff? So if you're interested in any of this code that came out of this, you can go to our team repository on github.com, Xapi Cohort. First, we could look at Lumi real quick, because this is what Rob was talking about, the standalone. So normally, you can get integrations and plugins for LMSs or WordPress or Moodle, that sort of thing, but you have to kind of set up those environments, and then you can install H5P on it. Or you can use h5p.com, but you have to pay for that. That's the cool thing about Lumi. It's a desktop app that this group has created. And it basically, if you're used to H5P authoring, it's pretty much just, it pulls in all the different types. So you can create a new one and then decide, what type you want to add. And this is just an offline desktop app. I don't know if it works. It might work for Mac. I know for Windows. But then, once you have that, as Rob was saying, you can export it either as an HTML file or a SCORM package. They didn't have XAPI in here. I think that would be something cool that they could implement maybe in the future, is adding XAPI support in their export. But in the meantime, it created this standalone wrapper. It basically takes what you export from Lumi, and then it puts it in an iframe, and it has a wrapper around, so that when the interaction emits XAPI events, we're just capturing that and sending it to your LRS. So it basically wraps it in just a standard XAPI package that you could upload to any LMS. So basically, without a whole lot of effort, you can create these presentations or interactions or whatever H5P can export, and take it as a course and put it in your LMS. One of the things that Joan was working on is this standalone server. So getting some of this to work outside of the LMS, you don't have to. So it's combining some of these different things. So there's a little more explanation and documentation in our repository about how to use these and instructions and things. So there's a little bit of overlap in how they all work, but the general idea is that to try to make it easier to get access to it for authoring, and then wrap it for XAPI, so you don't have to do a whole lot of manual work. I think a cool thing in the future, if I just get time between now and next season, or if we have a team next season, is to sort of automate some of these things. Because right now there's a little bit of, you can download this, extract it, move some files, change some settings, and upload. But ideally, it'd be cool to have something where you can just go somewhere, get an H5P interaction, upload it to a site, tell it what you want it to do. It'll give you a zip back, and you can just upload it. But it all works right now. We haven't done extensive testing on all the different interaction types, but as long as an H5P can emit it correctly, then it should work to send to the LRS. So I just tested this with one that I just pulled from Grassblade. one of their examples. And so, you get scores, answers. They're generally structured pretty well. You get the scores and the choice interaction type. Everything seems to be pretty good. So, and this is the spreadsheet that was mentioned that Joni started to create for each content type, what kind of verbs and output do you get? So this is really, really useful to be able to kind of see. There are certain things that are like, there are some weird things like a questionnaire that doesn't actually emit answers. So you don't actually get the answers to the questions in the questionnaire. So I find that one a little bit odd. So it's good to know that, like, you wouldn't make a questionnaire because now you know that you're not getting answers out of that. So thanks to Joan for putting that all together. So yeah, that's basically where we are right now. If anybody wants to download any of this code, it's here. If you want to work on it, submit anything. And our Slack team is always there as well.
Terrific. Thanks, Matt. And yeah, definitely Matt won't be a surprise to anybody who's been on the other cohorts. He's been a terrific resource for us and got us through a lot of questions and dilemmas that we had run into. So much appreciation to him. And as I said, also to the other members of the team too, that did a bunch of work to get to that content. As I told you, I was a little late to the group as well. So I really benefited from all the work that had happened ahead. In kind of summarizing, and hopefully good, Kevin's on there, so he'll jump in as well. From my perspective, this was kind of the second group that I got into at least the level of detail of work. And for me, what really resonates as an instructional designer is the concept of light and heavy lifting. And I love the light lifting because it gets you started and gets you the energy there. And you saw some of the different ways that you can do that with H5P. I like to kind of dabble and say I understand JavaScript or can work a little bit in HTML or CSS until we get deeper, and then I realize it's much heavier lifting. And so that's where folks like Matt and Joan were able to really help out. And that's also sort of where we have some work left that we would like to do. And so I'll probably keep Matt on the hanger there for joining the group. I'll start up the H5P group again next year if it hasn't already, or next cohort if it hasn't already. But it was incredibly helpful. I've still got some things left from my sort of application to kind of understand more about where D2L is going as an LMS provider who's looking like they might do some LRS work, but also to look at some of these other options and see other ways that you can realize those. And so I'm going to let Kevin do some comments too, but I would definitely encourage anybody who, even if you're already familiar with H5P, take a look at the Slack channel and some of the resources that we've come up with. Joan, as Matt showed there, made that great spreadsheet, and there's a bunch of different things there that I'm sure would be helpful even to those who are not aware of it, but certainly can help with those who've just become aware through our presentation. Kevin, you got other thoughts?
I'll just wrap it up and just say that it's a really, really great group of people. And we've got a pretty good foundation, and we're definitely going to go in the fall. So if you're interested in WordPress or H5P, or you know anybody like that, I think, if you're wondering what to do, this is a real good opportunity for you to jump in and learn, because if I can learn, anybody can learn. So come on in. And that'll be it.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Thanks, Megan.
Awesome. Fantastic team. This was really great to see. What I love is seeing the thought process and the learning process and the results and data, which is really exciting too. So we have a joke here at Torrance Learning that instructional designers ruin everything. Because we just can't exist in the world without looking at, how is that learned and how do we do it? So I was really resonating with your lighter lift and heavy lift, and just the different ways in which we're learning as we're doing, and we're learning about learning as we doing. And anyways, you know where I'm going. So Hey, thank you so much. And thanks also to Joan and Shauna. And I know Brian Duck had some words in there as well. There's lots of, these teams start from the ether, right? And come out and do some really neat stuff. So, all right. We are going to take a quick intermittent. Oh, there's a question. Okay, I am going to pose you all a question while you're here. Amy asks, is there any idea how this does or doesn't work in an LMS that uses H5P as the built-in development tool?
Terrific question. I guess, and Matt may be able to shed a little more insight on the technical side. I think what I know about the tool, especially if you're leveraging the h5p.com group, like if they're sort of at the heart of supplying the tool as the sort of built-in or home tool, that because a lot of those things already come with those statements available, then it would probably be dependent on what's been set up in the LMS. So as I mentioned, for me, the one that I'm most familiar with is D2L's Brightspace, which we are using WordPress to create the content, and we're picking it up as an embed code that we can drop in there. So it basically is separated from the actual H5P interaction where those statements are being generated. We're not getting them because we're using the embed approach. When you're using it as a direct tool, the way the h5p.com site explains it, because they do have integrations even for Brightspace. So we could pay and have that data already coming into the LMS. In this case, it would have to be through more of the grading and SCORM style. But as I mentioned, I know they're working on an LRS function. So they say they are capturing the statements. You just can't get at them yet. So I think that would be the things to look at in terms of your own LMS. Matt, I don't know if you had any other insight or if he's still on there.
And that's a good insight, because I don't see that much of that side of things from the LMS, except for WordPress is where we've tested mostly. And WordPress, you can integrate an author there. There's also a plugin for XAPI that you can then take what's being emitted and send it. So a workaround, if you had to, is if you can get that embed that exports H5P, which there's a little like reuse button in the bottom left of a lot of those embeds. If you can get that H5P file out, then you can use any of those wrapper methods and then add the wrapper and then put them back in your LMS as a XAPI package. It's kind of a roundabout way of doing it. So if your LMS can do it directly, as Rob said, it's more on how they're set up to do it. So it sounds like Brightspace might be working on it, but I'm not sure about the others.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, everybody. All right. Let's get our next demo day team up on the stage here. I know Liz is coming. I just wanted an opportunity to show this amazing. Here we go. Woo! Fortunately for everyone involved, I don't get to use that animation very often. So I will ask out to the crowd. Shauna, do we want to bring you on stage too, or just Jamie today? And Shauna, if you want to be brought on stage, raise your hand and Jamie can scoop you up. Otherwise, Liz, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to get out of your way because I am very excited to see what Team Unreal Engine has been working on.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Liz Barron. I'm presenting on behalf of Team Unreal Engine. And let me go ahead and share my screen. Give me a second. Okay. Okay, perfect. So can you see my...
Looking good.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So first things first, this is Team Unreal, and it consists of Shauna, Brian Duck, Henry Ring, myself, and honorable mention to Matt Kay for saving us and helping us debug our code. for Unreal Engine. So also, I definitely want to give a quick shout out to Brian Duck for recording our demo for today, and to Shauna for putting the slides together. They did a great job. Next, so what is Unreal Engine? Unreal is one of the most notorious gaming engines at the moment. There's also Unity, but we chose Unreal because of the fact that it has blueprints, which, so basically there's the coding language C++, which allows you to create a lot of gaming code, but Unreal Engine has the ability to create blueprints, which substitutes the need for using C++ for those of us that don't know how to code it. So it's pretty awesome. And what can you build with Unreal Engine? You can build games for, to play VR, to play on your VR lenses, to game just regularly, to play with Xbox, PlayStation. I mean, the options are endless to play on your PC. And on here we can see like you can use it for AR as well, for architecture models, etc. So it's really an untapped resource for learning at the moment, where we feel that XAPI could be really useful, and we're really looking forward to learning more about it and seeing what we can do. So our problem here, which again is not so much a problem as it is an opportunity for growth in this instance, is we wanted to see what opportunities game engines can present for us, and again, how we can use XAPI to track learner engagement, what their choices are. And for example, if someone's using, let's say they're using a bodysuit, we could actually track their movement and see, we could also track their eyes, where are they looking, where are they moving, why are they moving here first, etc. So it definitely allows us to do a lot more than we'd be able to do and track just with a simple LMS. So there's definitely a lot of promise with it. So one of the things that one of our main goal for this semester was really just to create or revise an existing XAPI plugin to try to transport statements to a learning record store. And then once we did that, we want to try to experiment with various types of subject, verb, object, statement outputs, and kind of see where we can go from there. So far, I did jump in late to the project. At the moment, so we did go through the steps of figuring out what we wanted to do as a team for this cohort. There's just so much to do. So we had to definitely, whittle it down a little bit. So we've defined what we want to learn. And then most of us had not actually learned Unreal Engine before. So we've had to learn the engine, and we're all still beginners for the most part. I think Shauna is probably the expert out of the group. The rest of us are, trying to chug along and trying to keep up with her, and trying to just take in as much as we can. And also Brian found a plugin from the ADL for the engine version 4.27. They have different versions at the moment. The latest one is 5.0. So there were 2 different ADL projects that we've tried, and none of them worked on our computers. Surprisingly, the one for version 5 ended up working fine, only after debugging though. And that's where Matt K came in and helped us figure out what the issues were. And it turned out that there were extra spaces in the code, that the rest of us couldn't really detect, but he did. So thank you so much for that. And then additionally, our key takeaways for at the moment anyway, because again, we're a couple of weeks in to actually testing it. So at the moment, our key takeaways are that plugins may work with some versions, but not with others, regardless of what the fine print is saying. So definitely testing. They may work with some learning record stores, but not others, unless code is altered. So for example, one of the issues we ran into was that the plugin was not working with Rustici software, with a Rustici LRS, but it was working with Veracity. And additionally, the working plugin with Unreal Engine 5.0, again, is the one that worked for us. And we do have a link, and we will post it on the Slack channel if anybody's interested in it. I just realized I didn't put the slideshow into a slideshow mode. Sorry. So, and our new questions, now that we've at least gotten something to work, which you'll see in a moment, is really just, how can we manipulate and learn and use learner data collection. Like, what's the purpose of it? Are we just collecting data to collect it? And that's not really what we want to do. We really want to try to see how users are experiencing data. So again, in the case of people using body sensors, what are they doing with it? Where are they moving? And in general, also, how are they using the Unreal map? So how are they using the scenery that you give them? Where are they looking first? And why are they walking this way first instead of this way? How many steps does it take them to get to the right answer? So things like that are really interesting. And again, you couldn't do that just with a regular LMS. And then again, our traditional learning data, which we're just, how to gather XAPI statements. We'll continue playing around with different ways to try to gather that and what we can gather. And then just kind of seeing how the learner progresses throughout the course, which in this case, it could also be, throughout the game. So why are they, choosing this versus that, etc. And how, just in general, learner progression throughout the entire game. I think that would be pretty awesome. Game or training, etc. So I wanted to show you a piece of the code snippet that was edited, just for those that are a little bit more interested in code. So here's a code. Again, essentially, there were a couple of extra spaces. So this is what what Matt ended up editing. That's how it looks. We actually already have the link in the Slack channel for those interested in more detail. And I'm going to go ahead and play the Unreal Engine demo at the moment, which is basically, it's kind of a quick overview of how we came to actually find the issues that we were having and troubleshooted them. And then again, with the help of Matt K, we were able to come to a conclusion and find an answer and get XAPI statements working on Unreal Engine. And here we go.
Hey, Liz, is there audio with this? Because it's not coming through. And I wonder if when you shared this, if you could do the share audio.
Okay, sure. Sorry, I don't think I've ever presented a video before.
You need to just reshare, like stop your share and then restart share. And then before you hit that final share button, there's a audio.
Okay. Sorry, everyone.
And then when you get there, if you could just maximize the video part.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, let me know if you hear it.
We do not hear it. Oh, audio starts at about 30 seconds in. So can you see if you can zoom in a little bit further?
Sure. Well, now we're getting, getting an ad. Okay, let me stop sharing for it. Okay. I was also wondering if maybe I could share the link with Jamie so it's easier for her to share it with us.
Well, let's see if we've got it here.
Does it work now?
So we don't know because the audio doesn't start until about 30 seconds in. So
yeah. So here they're already talking.
No, we're not getting it through.
Okay, sorry. Let me just go ahead and stop sharing and send it to Jamie, maybe.
Okay, Jamie, you up for that? Jamie, I see your response says go ahead, and I'm not sure if that means yes, Jamie is up for that, or.
Okay, I just sent it to her.
Okay. Awesome, everybody. So Jamie's getting herself on stage because she's magic.
3.11. That's not now.
Hmm.
Nothing new.
Perfect.
Well,
Yeah, if you want to just for the heck of it, try that Veracity endpoint. I'm pretty sure they're not going to let it through either, but it would just
share
give us
that.
one. Yeah, it's in the chat. Testing.lrsa.io.
Oh, okay. So that's popcorn out of the way. I'm also going to save the chat while I'm in there. Over here and see if we've got the update. Yes, we do. You preference which one we try it in, or both?
Yeah, whichever's closest to hand, I guess.
Yeah, I grabbed the credentials and not the URL. Statements no slash. Warning. Authorization set incorrectly, 401.
Oh, let's see.
So let me stop and make sure I've got basic.
Oh,
Let make sure I got no errors here. That could be the source. And we got a valid response.
wow. Okay.
So 6 space and the BTOA key that you had. Is that what did it?
Yes.
Let me go back over here to.
Were you able to see that one in Veracity?
Yeah, got that message or that statement. Test
That's right.
agent.
Veracity has lenient settings.
Yeah. Well, and Stormcloud does too, but it's defaulting to not strict mode, so it's weird. So, yeah, this is the real Matt, the real live Matt. So, Jamie, if you can you lower the audio a little bit? In Veracity, they URL encode the spaces. So okay. %20. This is weird to see myself and hear myself at the same time. Basically, we were at this point. I jumped in kind of late, so I didn't get some of the earlier setup of how far everybody got. But there were 2 plugins that were provided, and you can see switching back and forth. And Brian was working on a new Mac and trying to get Unreal to work in 2 different versions, and it takes forever to download. So I was trying to download at the same time so I could get in there. But the plugins give you the kind of the basics that you can enter your credentials, you can connect. As Liz was saying, there's just like a blueprint set up, so you don't have to code it. Behind the scenes, it's creating code, but it's like a node-based thing where you can wire up different nodes. So you can say, when this happens, wire it up, and you can connect it to like an XAPI node that basically will send out your statements. So that's the next thing to figure out is what are the things you can wire up? How do you determine who the actor is? Like, we don't know. Like the plugin that we were using, it hard codes an actor in there, and obviously that's not good. It's all going to be the same person. So we figure there's probably some good way of getting some sort of overlay interface where you can just say who you are before you start. I remember Peter Gunther several years ago had a Unity version. It was kind of like that. So figuring out some of those details, but it took us a while to get to the point of figuring out why this wasn't working in the first place. So we're probably going to put in a pull request to the plugin authors and say, hey, there's an error in here, and so other people won't run into that. But once we can kind of figure out how to change what the LRS or what the XAPI object is for different things, and how do we switch the verbs depending on what you're doing, then you can pretty much connect to anything that Unreal can do theoretically. So like Liz was saying, any of those use cases you can start to plug in. We're at the point of just figuring out the details of getting it working, and then we can start attaching it to cool stuff. And if you fast forward to the video, I think near the end, there's kind of a sample project that Brian was working with. You're just running around. Your game character can run around and hit some buttons and things. So we're going to try to wire it up to that, and just as a kind of a test to get to the point of actually. Yeah, I think that was where it was. Yeah, I'm not sure there's any real sound at this point, but basically that's where we got, how far we got. So I think if this one continues on to next season, we'll hopefully get to the point of actually kind of connecting these things, because there's several sample things like this out there on the internet where you can just, once we figure out the wiring, then we can just apply it to probably about anything that we can connect it to. So,
and you can see these colored buttons.
Mm-hmm.
If I hit the first level one, it turns green and goes down, and then the next one activates. So I can go off of the first one and activate the second one.
Mm-hmm.
And all we're wondering is if we couldn't tie one of these.
Bury the
components
XAPI
in.
call in there. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So essentially, each of those buttons, because of the blueprint allows you to clone those and then basically record each instance as a different action. So that's really what we're interested in, and trying to see, what we can do, and just what we can come up with, at least for this cohort, and then we'll see where we go for the next one. But thank you so much, Matt, for providing clarity to it, and for being our tech whiz and our XAPI whiz as well. And thank you for everybody. If anybody wants to join our team, everybody's welcome to join our Slack channel. We meet every Thursday immediately after cohort. So it's never too late. And we hope to see you there. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Team H5P and Team Unreal Engine. It was great to see your demos, to see all the hard work that you've been doing this semester. And I appreciate you taking the bold step and going first. Typically, for those of you who haven't demoed yet, when we say these are the weeks we're demoing, typically there is a race to the end of the schedule. Everybody wants to be at the end to buy themselves that extra week. So the teams that go first have had one less week to prepare and do work on their things. And so I appreciate them for going first. So it's never too late to join cohort, and pretty soon we'll have the cohort for next season. We'll have that up and ready to rock and roll. Rob Wiggins has a question. You know what? I am going to paste Rob's question into the chat and let Matt and Liz answer that question there, because they've already left the stage. So good things to know. It's never too late to join Cohort. And this is a great time to do that simply because you're seeing all the demos. So welcome, but we will get the fall cohort sign up relatively soon. And if you're signed up for spring, you will receive an invitation to fall. Just so you know, because we have a lot of new people here at Cohort, we don't roll you forward automatically. So when we send out the call to, would you like to sign up for fall, you'll have to actively go ahead and do that. Hope to see you at the Learning Solutions Conference. Let me know if you will be there. Matt will be there also. And we are always available if you have questions. XAPI cohort at torranceLearning.com, or you can just message Jamie, Matt, Liz, we should add Liz to our list, and myself if you have questions or need help. So, hey, everybody, get out there, make something cool, and then share it with the world. So thanks, everybody. See you next week on Cohort.